The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everyone to Friends in Recovery podcast. We're broadcasting live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café. And what a beautiful place this is.
Absolutely.
We are fortunate to be here, I believe. I'm Mike Miles.
I'm Chionchio.
Jeff Zeizel.
And today we have a special guest, and she's from the she's an intuitive life coach. I'm going to slow down a little bit.
You got it.
From Soul Sessions.
Yes.
And this is Sincere. And
hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
yes.
And
she's from Virginia.
Yep.
So
Originally from New York.
All right, so she got them both. I was going to say, all you Northerners, go
That's
easy.
right, that's right,
But
New
you know
York.
what? You're a Northerner.
What part of New York?
Every part except Staten Island. But I'm a Harlem girl to my heart.
Awesome.
There you go.
125th Street. I lived on 123rd, Broadway.
Oh, how about that? 152nd St. Nicholas Avenue.
The
baby.
Cotton Club.
What you know about the Cotton Club?
I've been there.
Okay.
I lived there, on the
Okay.
west side.
wow.
Okay.
Okay.
See, we didn't even know.
All right.
See, Jeff and I are back, and we're taking over the whole show
know.
already. We missed you last
Where have you been?
week.
Where have you been, you two? Traveling?
Well, actually, funny you should ask. All right? So Ed and I went to we were in a conference in Minnesota that was sponsored by the Minnesota Association of Women's Police Officers. And they had contacted Ed because there was a concern about substance abuse and alcoholism, primarily alcoholism, with women police. And Ed had called me, and we both went out and we presented to the association on the issues of alcoholism within women policing. It's actually quite interesting. We know that it is a problem just as it is everywhere. But we spent a couple days out there. The people were great, and we love them, and we're planning on going back to Minnesota. The only thing I wanted to hear in Minnesota was someone say, "You betcha."
And that's all they were saying.
that's good.
Well,
Yeah.
we like to also thank Angie, who we spent some time with, and Aaron, who Angie was the president of
Right, Angie
Kroger. Angie, sorry, we're messing up your
Angie
name.
K.
Yeah, and they hosted us. It was great. We had a really fun time out there.
And you spend time with people, you actually learn a lot about
Yeah,
them. So
yeah.
That's right.
it's really
Yeah.
great. And one of the things we learned that Angie has a tattoo on her right arm.
Wait a minute. I thought you were at a conference.
Well, it wasn't the whole conference. With the name of Chippy on
Chippy,
Chippy,
her
all
dog, her
All
dog.
right. Well, that's
Yes.
good. That's good.
Chippy the dog.
Chippy the
Better
dog.
than having an ex-boy or a girlfriend on the tattoo there.
Yeah, who has a gun waiting for you outside.
Hey, I just wanted to add a few things I missed here, and it's that we are Friends in Recovery. Excuse me. Come get sober with us. We can be reached at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. You can reach us at our 800 number, which is 800-989-6504, or you can get us at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. Also look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be sure to like and subscribe. We would like to thank the Genesis House, as we do every week. Honestly, remarkable recovery facility. I've sent friends, family, many people there, and I can honestly say that it's the real deal. So now back to Studio 21 Podcast Cafe and our show.
All right.
What do you got for us, Ed?
Well, we got a couple things going on. You're good, Mike. I'd never want to sit in that seat.
It's not easy being the Podfather.
That's right, the Podfather.
Podfather.
Well, we're happy to be back in the Podfather's graces. And Sincere, I met her a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago in D.C., and we just connected instantly at dinner. And
You're just such a kind soul.
Sorry, Dana, but I kind of just blocked everybody out, and we connected, and we
Yes.
spoke, and she's going to do a new segment on our show. You'll hear that later on in the show called Sincere Moments.
Yes.
And when she told me about that, I was like, I got to have that on this show. I really do. You come from a background of podcasting, I believe.
Well, I've done podcasting. I've done blog talk.
Yeah.
Did a little AM radio.
Okay.
Radio that's my thing. I did a little internet TV radio as well.
You got the voice, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I inherited that from my mom and my dad, actually. My mother and I sound just alike.
And Mike's got the face for radio.
How about that? That has that twinkle in his eye that I love so much, you know.
But the one thing our subject basically is going to be talking about letting go, which I think is a wonderful subject. When you said that, I was like, I'm in. That's my favorite subject, and it's so hard to let go sometimes. And so we'll talk about that. But I like what you do and how you do everything. You and I have had some privileges to speak in the past in between this, and you're very spiritual. Is that the right word, spiritual, or very intuitive? I know intuitive, but spiritual.
I am intuitive. I would say I have a spiritual connection, as we all do, but don't recognize. I'm just aware of it. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can connect people with that piece that they don't know about is what I got from you.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating just talking to you and kind of being on the same level with somebody. I'm in recovery 24 years, and everybody's saying, well, this is a recovery show. What does that have to do with it? Because Mike and Jeff, as you guys know, and Sincere, I have to tell you this, there's different levels in our recovery. There's different plateaus that we take and different places that we need to be to get to the next level. And I know, Sincere, you help people get there, and especially people in recovery, try to get to that place. I call it a spiritual place, because we don't always find that spiritual grace all the time. Sometimes we're living in craziness. Sometimes we need to take deep breaths and kind of relax and figure out where we're at. And that's kind of what you do, right? You want to.
Yeah, I am an intuitive life coach, which the intuitive part comes in with usually I don't need to hear you speak. I can feel your energy and know what's going on underneath the surface. That's the intuitive part, okay? And the coaching part is just giving guidance to bringing you back to the truth of who you really are under the surface, and that's just brilliant, divine beings, spiritual people having a human experience. And we tend to separate ourselves from that. We tend to think that we could say God, source energy, infinite energy, whatever resonates with you, but we tend to see it as this outside thing. And yes, it's outside, but it's also inside. If we were made in the image and the likeness of God, then how can we not be that? How can we not have that in us? And a lot of times we forget about that. And I think that disalignment is what causes us to act the opposite of who we are.
Absolutely.
I like that word disalignment, because I think a lot of us in early recovery, even in recovery, even way down the road, we get disaligned once in a while. And we need to be kind of propped back up and set onto that path again, and that's, it's always good. It's always good to kind of go into counseling, go into whatever you need to get yourself back to where you need to be, so you can take that next step to be more successful spiritually, mentally, and physically.
I found in early recovery that, I was looking to get everything back all at once. I went through a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot going on for me when I got sober. But what I did find was I truly enjoyed seeing, the snow melting away and grass budding up and trees coming alive and things that I just never saw before. And and that to me was the serenity of this. And I still didn't have the car, the money. I was struggling to get. But every day I did. I did what was told to me: get on my knees, ask for help, go through the day, hit a meeting, and get something out of it. And they talk about intuitively, we'll know things that used to baffle us, and it's true, and that's a great word. This is a word you don't see often, so when you do see it, there's a real true meaning with it. So I like that. Yes.
Well, if you look through the big book, it's definitely in there.
It is. Oh, I know.
we skip it over, and some of us don't even know what that word means. So that's it's good to kind of explore it. When we find
it's
out
a
what
big
it is.
part of ourselves that we tend to ignore. How many times did you say, I knew that, oh, I should have. We'd all be millionaires because it's that higher consciousness that's telling us that. We ignore it all the time because we logic. We have to be logical. We have to be rational. But spirit doesn't show up that way all the time. Spirit is in the gut. Spirit is in the heart. We feel that, you know.
Well, spiritual is not something we can grab onto.
It's who we are.
Exactly.
It is already who we are. Everything we're trying to become, we are already that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because you had said that you can feel people's energy, and there's an intuitive nature of that, and it is, you know, it's remarkably accurate and true. Not everyone has that gift. You have that gift, but there are people who sometimes just don't pick up on that. But it takes a special person to sort of tune into that. So that's a person who's really in touch with their own energy and themselves and what their struggle is and what their pain is. Because someone could walk in the room and you just know they're in pain, or you know something else is going on. They haven't uttered one word, but 80% of communication is nonverbal. And if you know what to look for, you know, or you have a sense. So it's interesting because we were talking about the show, like, oh, what are we going to do on the show? And we were saying it's organic. But
that's right.
what you do is organic. You know, you just, you know, you don't always know where you're going to end, and you don't always know where you're going to start, but there is a starting point and there's an end point. And what you do is like, it's the beauty of your skill set and how you know, work with people. I was just curious, do you have people who call you and then you try to help them sort out their mission in life and what their journey is and those types of things?
What's very interesting is that everybody is so different. You know, I'm only as effective as they are in the space of allowing. You know what I mean? And it depends on the person. I meet them where they are. I allow myself to be led. So you have different cases. You have some people that are looking for some kind of a spiritual connection that are not necessarily into religion. Because that is what I do. I want to bring you back to the truth of who you are. So I try not to drudge up things from the past, because I truly believe in vibration. I believe in energy. I believe that you don't need to, this is my personal opinion, I try not to go back there and reactivate that energy in you all over again. Because then I feel that once you relive that, you attract more of that. You know, so my thing is focusing on the beauty of who you are, not who you were the other day when you didn't feel good about yourself. You know, we're going to focus on the present moment right now and the brilliance and the divinity of who you are right now. You know, and it's just really helping to shift the way people see themselves, because to me that's the most important thing. It's not about appeasing, how we were talking about earlier. It's not about convincing anybody else that you are different. It's not about becoming codependent on seeing someone else see your brilliance. It's about you changing your lens. And once you change the lens that you look through with how you see yourself, then that could be that mind, body, spirit alignment, you know?
Well, I think it was Jung, J-U-N-G, the great philosopher, who said, you know, you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself. And I think a lot of us, I know in my own recovery, you know, I heard a lot of people when I was active, and I've been sober a long time, and I'm very fortunate to be sober, but I didn't see myself. It took a long time. And even today with people I help, people, you know, I know I've helped a lot of people, but I see my faults more than I see my good attributes, you know, and you know, it's kind of you know, it's a everyday struggle sometimes.
It's a programming, though. You know, we come into this world already told, like, you know, you're not perfect. You were born into sin. You know, where that is the seed that is, that is the seed that has been planted, that we continue to nurture through our experiences, what society has in store for us, what our parents think, and everything else. We really don't get that. You know, my mom told me at a very young age, she said, you know, you are light, you know, and some people will be blinded by it. Some people will be able to see in it, and some people will try to dim it. That's not something we teach our children. We don't teach our children the divinity, you know, and we plant all these other seeds. You know, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You know, it's all these negative things that we instill. So how can we vibrate any differently if the programming is that we are the opposite of unconditional love? You know, so, I mean, it just, that's my take on it, you know.
Well, we're always putting, I'm not, we are, me, I know I'm always putting myself down, but it's because it's easy to do that, because like you said, we're programmed to do that. I never even realized it, from original sin. You know, we were born sin.
That's
you know?
What they say.
But, you know, it's always put you, I didn't do a good job today. I didn't give my 100%. I don't think anybody can give 100% every day, you know, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Actually, you give 100% a week, 20%. 20% on Monday.
Oh, I can't break it up?
How about if I say this to you, Ed, that we are all 100% because we wake up with the breath of life? That's unconditional love. You know, we are
Absolutely.
unconditional love expressed every time we take the breath of life.
That's right. But I think we knock ourselves down as the day, even when we go by day, knock ourselves down as day goes by. But we shouldn't. We should be building ourselves up. We should be going up to 100, 200, 300%.
Absolutely.
You know, but I think we're programmed to kind of look at ourselves, you know, like Mike said, you know, I'm in recovery too, but we were always doing something that wasn't good for us. It wasn't healthy, cheating, stealing, or doing something to somebody when we were using. So that even programmed us even more. You know, then you get into recovery, you think, oh, what all about all the bad things? Well, what about all the good things? What about all the good things that you did when you were a kid? What about all the good things you did when you're in recovery, when you're doing what you're doing, you know? And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to think about that. And you know, one thing I like what you told me a while ago, and I have to share this because I would say my anxiety.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And I have a lot of anxiety. It just kind of I run an anxiety.
Right.
You told me not to say my anxiety.
That's
say
right.
the anxiety.
Right.
And the anxiety, I disconnected myself from it, and now it's just the anxiety. Is it still there? Yeah, but I'm not taking charge of it. That's one way
not
of
claiming it
exactly
as yours.
not claiming it, and that's one way of not putting myself down for that day. You know, I don't have my anxiety anymore. It's just the anxiety that comes with life.
That's right.
And then I can get through it easier.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We're going to grab a quick break. Producer wants us to grab a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Friends in Recovery podcast live from Studio 21 Podcast. Make sure you come back because Jeff Zeizel has something of great importance to tell us.
Yeah.
Put that hammer down and check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is a weekly podcast where Tommy Two Shoes and No Nonsense Nance sit down with a different specialist every week. If you're tired of unvetted and uninsured contractors charging too much money for not enough quality, you need to check out the Don't Do It Yourself podcast, the Contractors Referral Program. The Don't Do It Yourself podcast is live on YouTube every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. or on demand on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast catcher. Put that hammer down and don't do it yourself. Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Soul Sessions is an intuitive life coaching service that provides a safe place for everyone to get the guidance they are seeking. Intuitive life coach Shanti Syncere Slade uses her powerful gifts of empathy, spiritual connection, intuition, human experience, and conscious listening to provide a safe place to evolve and shed light on the truth of who we all are, brilliant divine beings. Remembering ourselves as spiritual beings helps us to navigate through the human experience with more gratitude and ease. For more information or to book a free 30-minute telephonic consultation, please visit our website at www.soulsessions.com. That's www.SOEL for Seeing Ourselves Evolve Lovingly, sessions with an S.com. We can all use a little guidance.
Richie Lombardi, the Step Guy, joins us once a month on the second Tuesday, where we plan to get in-depth with each of the 12 steps to recovery. Come get sober with the Friends in Recovery podcast and Rich, the Step Guy, Lombardi. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get this and every episode each and every week.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. to Friends in Recovery podcast, live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café. And we're here with my good friend Ed Chionchio.
That's me.
Jeff Zeizel. And we have a special guest with us today. We have Shanti Syncere Slade. And it's been going well. This has been a great it's been a great podcast so far.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we're going into a time takes time.
It sounds like we are, Mike. Well, that means that it's time for Time Takes Time. Welcome to the Time Takes Time portion of the show, sponsored by the Genesis House. This is where we ask our friends in recovery to email us your sobriety anniversary so we can celebrate with them. Celebrate with you guys. Congratulations to the following: David C., 6 months in Churchville, PA. Ellen S., 2 years, Chicago, Illinois. Jonathan M., 3 years in Redondo Beach, California.
Jeff's a traveler. He knows.
Yes. And Sue W., 15 years, Morris Plains, New Jersey. Congratulations to everyone.
Many continued blessings.
6 months, 15 years, whatever it is. You guys are keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Day at a time.
Absolutely.
So we're back, Jeff. Before we went off for our break, you were.
Yes, I had a comment to make, which, since you hit it right, right on the sort of sweet spot there, which is that what we say about ourselves makes it so.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a great point when Ed talks about my anxiety.
Yeah.
You encumber yourself by using that language.
Yeah.
But if we change, words are so powerful.
Yes, they are.
So you can call someone an idiot, and you can damage them. You can say to someone, "Hey, you just learned differently, and I love you, and you're so smart." And then kids respond to that, but we do it to ourselves all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting by not owning the words, my anxiety, just calling the anxiety. All of a sudden, you could detach from it, and you learn some strategies how to deal with it. So I have a friend of mine who's a chronic pain nurse practitioner. So she deals with people in chronic pain, and she tells them when she's treating people, she says to them, instead of saying, "Oh, my back hurts," just say, "You know what? My back is feeling okay today," even if it's not, because you actually start tricking the mind. So I started doing that also. So we have a dog who we love, who's arthritic, 15 years old. It's hard for her to walk around. So I carry her down the stairs a lot. And she's about 60 pounds. So when I carry her, I tell myself, "You're not 63, you're 35. And all of a sudden, it's a lot easier to carry it down.
Right.
And I'm fooling my brain.
Mind over matter.
Yes.
Mind
Yeah,
over
it's true.
matter.
So we know about mental toughness. That's one of the components where people excel and achieve, and that's all that's why some people survive and some people don't.
Yeah.
It's what is up here, and that's your whole premise, which is brilliant. Which is that, hey, we have to use language to allow ourselves to avoid the negative and embrace the positive. And as you point out, we all have it. It's a question of peeling back the onion skin to get to it.
It feels lighter. It doesn't just shift the mind, but it shifts the energy all the way around the mind, the body, and the spirit.
That can even be applied to talking to people. I have a dear friend of mine, John Kelly. I mentioned his name a couple times on here on the show, but he always said to me, "Look around. Talk to the person who you're talking to. See what's going on. If they're a visual person, use seeing words. If they're more auditory, say, yeah, I hear you. Or feelings. Yeah, I feel you. And that kind of identifies them to make that connection with you. And if we can make a connection with somebody, we can either do whatever we have to do, make business deals or whatever. Loving family relationships. And I think that's so important to understand the other person also, and bring them into your, you into their life, and kind of work together. Is that kind of
what happens? Is either you're a vibrational match or you're not. People are led to you by the vibration that you give off. How they say your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
You don't have to pull anybody anywhere.
Right.
If they are a vibrational match, they will be exactly where they need to be, who they need to be, when they need to be with you.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what a powerful statement that is. Early recovery, probably 14 months, I started getting panic attacks. I mean, life just altering, threat. It's so afraid. It's so bad. I'd go to a hospital, have my vitals checked because I thought I was dying.
Right.
The doctor would say, "You're fine. You're fine. Your blood pressure's fine. Your heart rate." I'd be like, "See you later," and I'd go to another hospital. This guy's a quack. There's no way. And when I became a therapist, and I would sit with people, and anxiety would come into the discussion, I would ask them about it, and then sometimes I would trigger it. And now I learned through my mistakes that I would talk to them about anxiety. I would just talk about anxiety, not their anxiety, just about sometimes my own anxiety. And it didn't trigger it as much because sometimes people would get, Jeff, you know this, they'd get right into a full-blown panic attack just talking about it. They'd say, oh, excuse me. And I could see I triggered it. I'd be like, oh, I feel horrible. I'm so sorry. But, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have panic attacks sometimes. Excuse me, believe it or not. There's this thing that I go through where if my nose is stopped up, just one nostril, this is going to be interesting, just one nostril is stopped up, and I can be sitting on the couch and I'm fine. I can be walking around, fine. But if I lay in the bed, all of a sudden I feel as though I'm drowning, and I can breathe, I can open my mouth. It's only one nostril, but there's something going on that's saying I'm drowning. And I'll hop out of bed and my wife will say, put on your headphones, and she stays so calm. Put on your headphones and listen to your rain, because I go to sleep listening to the rain or something inspirational, or the ocean, and automatically that shifts the energy. You got to find something that can help you to shift the energy. You always have to reach for something, try to get that thing that's going to shift the energy, even if it's just a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we try to go from a zero to 100. And we're like, we feel like this, and then we want to feel like the Dalai Lama.
Right.
Well, that could be unrealistic from the space that you're in.
Absolutely.
But just a little bit of relief, celebrate that little bit of relief, and you'll get a whole lot more. That's for sure.
Well, because most of the time our anxiety or fears or whatever is just in our mind. It's not really happening. And I guess once you get that little bit of a pinhole, I think we were talking one time.
Right, that
you get a little pinhole in there. That pinhole can brighten up the whole room.
That's right.
So all you got to do is just get that little dot
pinhole
to open up that
to
light.
illuminate.
Yeah.
To illuminate.
And then you can get out of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's so true, and it's really how you think. So a couple of years ago, I was asked to do a sports psychology workshop for a local high school team, Westwood High School girls track. My friend is the coach. So one of the things I talked about is I said the way you think when you're running impacts your performance. If you always say these guys are better than us, we're going to lose. If you say I'm going to give it everything, you actually can win. So I taught him a strategy which I call internal arrogance. So we don't want people to be arrogant because it's not a redeeming quality. But have internal arrogance. Don't let people push you around. Stand your own ground. Let people know who you are. Play fair, play clean, play hard. But that whole thought process is how we shift from managing not doing well in life or exceeding in life. And I like the thing you had said, Syncere, which was when I was in graduate school for social work, the only thing I remember was the comment you made. Meet people where they're at.
Right.
If you meet people where they're at, you're in an even playing field. And then it's either going to work or it won't work, but you'll know where you stand. And what you had said also about the, reading people's energy, we know that when people look at successful outcomes for therapy, the number one variable has nothing to do with school, nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with education, degree, style. You know what it has to do with? I like the person.
Right.
There was a connection.
Right. There's a connection.
So, and that's what you're talking about. Like when you work with people in your practice, you have this connection, and you have an awesome responsibility of helping them sort of go on the journey of their life. They're trusting you, and that's a heavy thing to deal with. But it's all the energy that's involved.
Trusting, I have a funny take on trusting. Because I tell people it doesn't matter who you trust; they're always going to be who they are. It's not about trusting anybody else; it's about trusting that you chose the right situation that's going to serve you. I don't feel. I would say 100% responsible for someone. I like to show them how they need to be accountable for themselves, so then that way they don't become too codependent. It's very, very necessary for me to let them know that we are all equal, no matter how much you get paid, no matter what your title is, no matter what your race, religion, whatever. We are all equal. We all come from the same source. We all want the same things, and so that's the thing. It's about, do you trust yourself that you have been guided to make the right decision to even speak with me? you know, and so I always bring it back to them. Sometimes they, Sincere, I don't want to hear that shit, you know, but it is what it is, you know, because I want you to know that you are just as brilliant as you think I am.
Right. So it's interesting because you're right. You're only responsible for your half of the equation.
That's right.
You're responsible for doing the best job you can.
That's
what
right.
they do with it, that's on them.
That's right. I'm only as effective as they are allowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A woman had asked me one time she'd called about me seeing her son. He was 14, and she said, so tell me a little bit about yourself. I'd gone on, I'd Googled you, and it seems like you were a police officer. I said, well, I still am. And she said, so you're a police officer and you're a therapist. How do you work? I said, well, I'm a hard worker, I guess. I don't know. I just do it. I have a business, and so I'd like you to bring your son. I think we'll do well. She goes, well, he doesn't really like cops. I said, well, don't tell him I'm a cop. Just tell him I'm a therapist. Of course, when you come to my office, I have a police memorabilia, you know. And she said, well, I'm not sure this will work. I said, ma'am, at the time I'd been in business 14 years. I said, ma'am, in 14 years I've had one kid say to me, you're a cop. There's no way I'm going to tell you what's going on in my life. One person out of hundreds, you know. So the kid came, we hit it off great, and, you know, things worked out. But it made me think, and I hadn't thought of it at all, but it made me think, geez, maybe I should take some of this stuff down. Maybe I am creeping people out, you know. But
yeah, but that identifies you, Mike. That's who you are.
Two people in 18 years. One was a mother, one was the client himself. So I think that, you know, it is how you greet people. It's how you talk to them. Yeah. And, you know, there's a special way to talk to teenage boys and I see mostly boys, you know. There really is. Actually, I just want to plug a book. It's not my book, but I just read it. I just read some of it, the introduction. And it's by Adam Cox. He's a doctor. And the name of the book is Breaking the Code. Breaking the Boy Code. I'm sorry, Breaking the Boy Code. And basically tells you how to talk with boys at that age. And what part of the brain, what they perceive, how they perceive you, you know, what really is important to them. Your appearance and everything else. And, you know, I read the introduction, and it just made so much sense. I'm like, I got to read this book. I don't know how I missed it. I don't know how long it's been out there. Jeff, you ever hear of it?
I'm not familiar with that book, but I do know that there is a way to talk to boys so they listen. And the way you do it, generally, in 2 seconds, is you do an activity. So when I need to have a father-son discussion with my kids, hey, Jared, help me take out the trash.
There you go.
And I would have the 300 feet discussion.
Right.
Trash barrels to the curb and back. Discussion
That's it.
over.
Wow.
Okay. Very good.
Effective.
Yeah.
Well, listen, this is it. The end of the show.
Well, we got
so quick.
I know it does go quick.
So fun.
I think we got a new segment in our show.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
News to me.
I know. We'll get used to it. This is all new and changing for us.
Right.
So.
And now it's time for a sincere moment with Shanti Syncere Slade, brought to you by Soul Sessions.
Well, here we are, sincere moment. First, I want to say, you guys, I love you guys. I had so much fun, and thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
We were talking, you know, letting go. I went through the experience of feeling as though I healed from something. And you know how we always think we cleaned out our closets, you know, oh, I'm over that and I'm good. Man, I got triggered and realized that thing was not out my closet. And I freaked out a little bit because I'm like, I let that go. And then a voice said, and you can let it go again, so chill out. And I said, oh, that's true.
You can say shit.
Oh, shit. That felt good.
I know.
It's the New Yorker in me. You know
Wait till you drop an F-bomb. It feels really good. I'm good at that, right, Rich?
But that voice said, you know, you can let it go again, so chill out. And I said, man, that is so cool. I can let it go again. I can let it go as many times as I need to let it go. Once I let it go the first time, all I have to know is that, will I let it go the first time? Well, I can keep letting it go. And that's the thing. Keep letting it go as much as you have to, and don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself because, you know, this thing that you worked years on showed up again. It showed up for a reason. It showed up to remind you that you have the strength and the capacity to let it go as many times as you need to. So, you know, let it go as many times as you can, people. As many times as you can.
What do they say? It's practice, not perfection.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection.
Right,
and that was your sincere.
Practice the progress.
That was a sincere moment.
That was a sincere moment.
That will be on. That will be on each week now. And,
that's so cool. Go me.
Go me. And hopefully our audience will get something out of it too. You know, a good little spiritual.
I hope so. Many blessings to everybody that's out there doing their thing. You know,
this has really been a good segment.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I get to look at these two mugs every time.
I hope I can come back.
Yeah, we love to have you back.
Look, I'm putting it out there, guys. I want to come back.
we need another New Yorker here. I got these guys.
Well, that's it for today's show. We are Friends in Recovery, broadcasting live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café, which we just love it here. Don't forget, you can reach us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. Our 800 number, I believe it's on the screen, 1-800-989-6504. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And be sure to like us and subscribe. Come get sober with us. See you next week.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.